Alright, so one of the biggest cards really of all time, UFC 280 in the main event for the lightweight championship of the world, Charles "Dubronx" Oliveira versus Islam Makhachev. What a fight in the main event and your co-main event fight I'm most excited for. Actually, I don't know, I'm excited for the first two fights, or the top two fights. Aljamain Sterling, TJ Dillashaw, and also Sean O'Malley takes on Petrosyan. What a fight card. 14 fights from Abu Dhabi this Saturday night. What a fight card. And folks, if you haven't not yet, make sure to hit that subscribe button down below for more UFC here on the channel. We do UFC predictions every single week. Let's do it, man. UFC 280 this Saturday night. So our first fight is Yamamoto Nishikawa making his UFC debut against Magomed Mustafaev. And as for Nishikawa, again, his first fight in the UFC, he is 21-3-6 coming over from Shuto. And when Nishikawa does really well, he's a really good stand-up guy who's got a solid ground game as well. And again, the guy's on a big winning streak right now, about a 10-fight winning streak, a lot of stoppages in those wins for him, but they are throwing him right into the wolves this first fight in the UFC because Magomed Mustafaev is a very tough out. Now, Mustafaev has not fought in over 2 years, last fight being in February of 2020, dropping a split decision fight to Brad Riddell in New Zealand on that on the Felder and Dan Hooker card. But he lost to Brad Riddell in that fight. Mustafaev has not been seen since in the UFC octagon, but you know what Mustafaev excels in? He's got a really good stand-up game, of course. I mean, I think he's most known for that spinning back kick victory over Rafael Fiziev, winning that fight back on the Overeem Oleinik card, I believe, in Russia. So, I mean, the guy's got a really good stand-up game, a lot of innovative strikes. He's such a good striker, and he's a really tough guy to put away because his only two losses in the UFC is the submission loss to Kevin Lee back in 2016 and the split decision loss to Brad Riddell. It was a close fight. Mustafaev really relied on his wrestling in that fight, and he was effective with his wrestling. Really couldn't get the striking going all that much. Riddell knocked him down in the first round, but it was really, again, it was more Mustafaev using his wrestling. It was a close fight, but Riddell ended up winning it. And for Nishikawa, again, really don't know what we're going to get out the guy because you look at his fights before the UFC. His last one, again, is against a guy who is 9-11-4. Before that, 2-1, 13-6-2, 6-7-1, 16-6-5. A lot of fights in shoot, though, against guys who let's be honest, we don't know how good they are, but we know how good Magomed Mustafaev is. If Mustafaev's able to keep this fight on the feet, I think he's able to win. Even on the ground, I really like Mustafaev as well, just because I don't know if Nishikawa has got the power to put him away. Because a lot of Nishikawa's finishes are drawn out. You know, it's an accumulation of strikes. A lot of referee, you know, a lot of TKO finishes. A lot of getting guys in the ground and then finishing them down there. If Mustafaev is able to dictate where this fight is take place, whether it be on the ground or whether it be on the feet, I like Mustafaev a lot. I think his striking's better. I think it's quicker than Nishikawa's is. I mean, again, the guy's only 19 years old. He's very young, but he's already had, you know, how many pro fights? He's already had 30 pro fights, and the guy's 19. Kind of insane. I think experience, again, technically, it's on Nishikawa's side, even though he's 15 years younger than Magomed Mustafaev, but I still think Mustafaev is better in this spot. I think he's able to go in there. I think he's able to outstrike Nishikawa. I think he's able to keep the fight standing when he needs to, and I think Mustafaev is just all around better, and I think, again, he's 15 years older than Nishikawa. I think he's going to be able to win. I got Magomed Mustafaev to win this fight. I think he'll get a finish. I think he'll get a second-round finish in this one. I think eventually he's going to put away Nishikawa. I just think his pressure is going to be too much, and there's a reason why Mustafaev is such a big favorite. Give me Mustafaev by a second round TKO. Next up, we've got Rosa taking on Lena Lansberg. So Lansberg is back. She's 40 years old, coming off that loss to Penny Kianzad in her last fight, losing that one by unanimous decision. And for Lansberg, again, she's been in the UFC for a while. She made her debut in that main event spot against Chris Cyborg back in September of 2016. Obviously, she did not win that fight, but she comes back. She beats Lucia Puzilova. She loses to Aspen Ladd, who's going to go fight Julia Budd in the PFL final coming up in a couple months, or a couple weeks actually now. She beats Gina Mazzani after that. She loses to Yana Kunitskaya, beats Tanya Evinger, beats Macy Chasson, and by far her best victory. That got her in the rankings, got her up to like number 9 at one point, but then she's dropped back-to-back fights to Sarah McMahon and to Penny Kianzad. In the Penny Kianzad fight, it's really Kianzad just dominating that one. I mean, she's effective on the ground. Yes, Lansberg does knock her down in the second round, but other than that one knockdown, the rest of the fight's all Kianzad, especially in that third round. Kianzad does start to dominate. So, you know, Lansberg is getting up there in age. She's getting kind of slow, and this fight just really favors Karol Rosa a lot. I know Rosa lost her last fight to Sarah McMahon, and both these fighters have lost to McMahon in the past, and that just shows you how good of a wrestling game McMahon's got and how, you know, she's able to weather the storm because, you know, Sarah McMahon dominated Lena Lansberg. I mean, that's on Blaze dos Santos in North Carolina. It is a domination. I mean, McMahon's got 13 and a half minutes of control time in that fight. 3 takedowns, that's all that it takes. 1 a round. I mean, Sarah McMahon was dominant in that fight, and that just shows you how good of a wrestling game she does have. Now, is Karol Rosa going going to go out there and exploit that at Alina Lansberg? I don't know, because Alina Lansberg's takedown defense as a whole isn't the greatest. She's able to go in there sometimes and get takedowns of her own, but I mean, we'll see. We'll see. But Karol Rosa has been pretty good. Her only loss in the UFC is McMahon, and before that, she won 3 or 4 straight fights over the likes of Vanessa Mello, Jocelyn Edwards, and Betch Correia. I think Rosa's able to win this fight. I mean, I think you're going to see a striking affair, and I just think Rosa's striking is better than Lena Lansberg's striking. I mean, Lansberg does have the elbows, as her nickname entails. She's the elbow queen, but I think Rosa, again, is able to go in there, and Rosa should be able to outstrike Lansberg and just make this interesting. I think she'll be able to get in Lansberg's face, and I just don't think Lansberg's going to be able to keep up. And if Rosa has to go down there, I think she can use her wrestling, and she can go in there and take her down. Similar to what she did to Jocelyn Edwards. She just held Jocelyn Edwards down. That was kind of a thing that Rosa saw in that fight. It was pretty obvious that Edwards' ground game isn't the greatest. She's been taken down and held down a couple times so far in her career. Rosa went in there, exploited that. She might be able to do the same against Lansberg, but we'll see. Either it will be the wrestling or it just will be her getting into Lansberg's face and making it a fight that way. Either way, I do like Rosa to win. She'll beat Lena Lansberg, and she'll get it done by unanimous decision. Next up, we've got Arman Petrosyan versus AJ Dobson. Now for Petrosyan, 1-1 in the UFC, and his first win in the promotion keeps on looking better and better. It's the win over Gregory Rodriguez, and you look at Rodriguez now, what he's doing recently. I mean, hell, he beats Julian Marquez, knocks him out. He goes through Chidi and Jokawani, and now this guy's going to go on to fight Brad Tavares next year in Brazil. Rodriguez is a very good guy, and Petrosyan goes in there and beats him by split decision. It's a close fight. At the time, I thought Rodriguez maybe won. Watching it back, I think Petrosyan should get the nod. But Petrosyan's next fight, he just gets beat on the ground by a guy we're going to talk about in a little bit, in Caio Borralho. And that's what Borralho does to guys. He'll go in there, and is it the most fan-friendly style of fighting? No, it's not at all. I mean, I'll say it's a little bit boring what Borralho does, but it wins some fights. He holds guys down. His top pressure and his way of controlling guys is so good. His top jiu-jitsu game is, phenomenal, and it's really tough on guys to work back from their back against Borralho, and I think Muradov is going to have a lot of trouble against Borralho, and we're going to talk about that in a little bit, but Petrosyan, more the same. I mean, you know what Borralho is going to do. He only needed, 4 takedowns in that fight to hold Petrosyan down for 10 minutes. This is what we talked about with Sarah McMahon and Lena Lansberg earlier. That's where Borralho was able to just ground Petrosyan and keep him down there. And for AJ Dobson, his opponent in this fight, Dobson's 0-1 in the UFC. His first fight ran into a guy who does that exact same thing to guys, Jacob Malkoun. That's what Malkoun does. He will get guys down. He will hold them down. I mean, that is his game style. That is his game plan. The first round for AJ Dobson looks really good. He outstrikes Malkoun. He stuffs a lot of Malkoun's takedowns, but in the second and third, trouble all day for Dobson. He kind of tires. Malkoun takes over. He holds him down, and he keeps him down, and that's what he's going to do to guys. I mean, that is Jacob Malkoun's game, and that's what Caio Borralho's game was against Arman Petrosyan. Now, in this fight, though, I think you're going to see both these guys willing to engage in a striking fight. I think both these guys are going to remain on their feet, and you're going to see them. I think you're going to see them trade back and forth on the feet. I really do think you're going to see that. Now, we'll see, because I think on the ground, I would give the advantage to AJ Dobson. I think if Dobson does want to go down there, I think Dobson will have the advantage, just because I think his jiu-jitsu game is better, but striking-wise, I like Arman Petrosyan. I think Petrosyan can hit AJ Dobson at a lot of different angles, and more angles than when Dobson can hit him. I think he's got more power on the feet, but it does get interesting again if this one is hit the map, because I would give the slight advantage on the ground to, of course, I would give it to AJ Dobson. So, as my final prediction in this fight, though, I'm going to take Arman Petrosyan. I think Petrosyan is able to pick up the victory in this fight. I think you will be able to finish Dobson. Again, Dobson has not been finished yet in his career. His only loss being to Jacob Malkoun, but I think you get these guys brawling on the feet. Again, I got high expectations for this UFC 280 card. I think you're going to see a lot of finishes early, so I'm going to take Arman Petrosyan with maybe his biggest win to date. I think Petrosyan goes in there, finds that big knockout early in the fight. Going to take Arman Petrosyan by first round knockout. I mean, good luck with the pronunciation on this fight. I think I got it. It's Abubakar Nurmagomedov taking on Gadzi Omargadzhiev. And for Abubakar Nurmagomedov, 1-1 in the UFC, of course, he comes in. Actually, 1-1 in the UFC. Coming in, losing to David Zawada. He got caught in that triangle choke on the Zabit Magomed-Sharipov fight card against Calvin Kattar. Now being Zabit's last fight, but Nurmagomedov gets caught in that triangle choke early by Zawada. He doesn't fight for 2 years after that, takes on Jared Gooden in his next one, and he beats Jared Gooden. He puts it on him, really. It's a pretty good performance for Nurmagomedov. He's out striking Gooden. I mean, it's not as dominant as you'd hope, but that third round, Nurmagomedov shows the wrestling, and that's kind of what we expected out of Abubakar Nurmagomedov. It's the takedowns, and it's, the ground and pound from the top positioning. It's putting it on guys like that. First couple rounds, though, was Nurmagomedov and Gooden striking, It's not a fun fight to watch. It's not all that impressive, but Nurmagomedov does enough to outstrike Jared Gooden early on in that fight. And his opponent in this fight is Ghazi Omargadzhiev. And for Omargadzhiev, his first fight in the UFC is a loss to Kyle Borralho. It's his only fight so far in the UFC. It's a technical decision. I forgot exactly what happened there, but the fight gets stopped like midway through the third round. They go to the scorecards. Kyle Borralho wins the fight. I mean, it's that simple. Borralho wins. It's what you expect out of a Kyle Borralho fight. I believe it was a co-main event on the Bilal Muhammad Vicente Luque card. I don't know why it was that high on the card. I picked Omargadzhiev to win. I don't think I really knew at the time how truly good Kyle Borralho is. And, you know, Borralho just goes in there and grounds Omargadzhiev. So it's tough to take that fight into account when you think of, you know, what Omargadzhiev is going to be in the UFC, just considering that's the fight style Borralho fights, and Borralho is going to do that to a lot of these guys in this weight class. I'd make the case he'd do that to Nurmagomedov as well. That's just how dominant Borralho is against a lot of these 170-pounders. But for Omargadzhiev, what he's shown outside the UFC, he's shown a solid ground game, but it's barely been the striking out of Omargadzhiev that's won him fights. And for Abubakar Nurmagomedov, you know, kind of more the same. His striking isn't as, you know, he hasn't got as much power as Omargadzhiev has got, but he can get the job done on the feet to the point where he's able to switch it up and get it on the ground, and that's obviously where Nurmagomedov is going to want this fight. He shot a lot of takedowns against Jared Gooden, didn't always get him against Gooden, but that's what he went for a lot in that fight. And we'll see what happens. We will see what happens between him and Omargadzhiev. I think the takedown will be there for Nurmagomedov. I mean, I know Borralho is really good at getting that takedown. He did it a couple times against Omargadzhiev and just kind of tripped him to get on the ground a couple times, which I think will be there for Nurmagomedov, and I think he will be able to do that at some points in this fight. But on the feet, I think Nurmagomedov is just able to survive enough on the feet against Omargadzhiev. It's not like Omargadzhiev is, you know, a lethal power striker like some of these other guys are at 170. He's just not. He's a good striker, but it's not like if you make one mistake, Omargadzhiev is going to turn off the lights, right? So I think Nurmagomedov is able to stay competitive enough on the feet to get this fight on the ground and win the fight down there. So I'm going to take Abubakar Nurmagomedov to beat Ghazi Omargadzhiev. I think he gets it done by unanimous decision. Very interesting fight that's kind of buried. It's kind of low on this card. We've got Volkan No Time Oezdemir taking on Nikita Krylov. It's a good fight. Both these guys coming off wins in the same exact card. It's the London card where Volkan Oezdemir comes back a much-needed victory over Paul Craig. That's what we thought he was going to do to Paul Craig. I picked Oezdemir to win. He was an underdog going to that one, and he got the job done. He beat Craig by unanimous decision, did not let Craig get him to the ground, or he avoided danger on the ground against Paul Craig, and he won the fight that way. And now for his opponent in this fight, he'll be taking on a very tough out in Nikita Krylov. And his last fight was a victory over Alexander Gustafsson. Now, he disposes of Gustafsson in a minute. And Alexander Gustafsson, it is kind of sad to see where he is at this point of his career. It just is. I'll be honest with you. I mean, it sucks to see what Gustafsson has become, and it sucks that he's going to keep fighting. Now, they're giving him Ovince St. Preux, where it's a fight where both those guys should retire no matter what happens after that fight. But for Krylov, he beats Gustafsson. He does what he needs to do to Gustafsson, knocks him down twice, puts him on his ass, wins the fight that way. For Krylov, before that, though, back-to-back losses to the likes of some good fighters. And Paul Craig, where he's winning the fight, he's almost got Craig dead to rights in the ground. He's ground and pounding the hell out of him. And then he gets caught in a triangle choke, and Paul Craig wins the fight by sub. I mean, it's tough. It's tough. Before that, he loses to Magomed Ankalaev, but you know how good Ankalaev is. It's in a co-main event spot on the Rosenstruik-Gane card. Ankalaev outstrikes Krylov. He takes him down when he needs to. Ankalaev proved in that fight that he was the superior wrestler, and he won the fight. Just, again, his wrestling was more than what Krylov's was, and he did what he needed to do on the feet as well. But stylistically, when you look at this fight, right? Volkan Oezdemir, historically, really good takedown defense. I mean, really the only guy that I can remember that's taken down Volkan Oezdemir really at will was Daniel Cormier. I mean, Cormier is, I think, really the only guy that had a lot of success wrestling-wise against Oezdemir. Like, even Magomed Ankalaev had some problems taking down Oezdemir, and I've gone at lengths, again, praising the ground game of Magomed Ankalaev and how he was able to beat Nikita Krylov on the ground. Well, you know, he wasn't able to do that to Volkan Oezdemir. Alexander Rakic, a guy who does go to his wrestling some, couldn't really do it against Oezdemir. Same against Ilir Latifi. Oezdemir beat both those guys. He was able to keep the fight standing and knock both those guys out. Actually, no, he had a split decision against Rakic, but he was able to knock out Latifi. Again, the only guy I can really think of that's been able to really hold down Oezdemir is Daniel Cormier. He got him in the crucifix, and he finished him down there with strikes in a championship fight. But that's what it was made a big deal out of when Oezdemir got taken down by Cormier, because Cormier's the first guy to take him down. And really, Oezdemir with his 86% takedown defense rate so far in the UFC is huge. As long as he's able to outstrike Nikita Krylov, he should be able to win this fight, because on the feet, think about it. Is Oezdemir the guy he once was when he challenged for the championship? No, he's not. But is he still a better striker than Nikita Krylov? Yes, he is. He is better striking than Krylov. If he's able to hold off the wrestling on a Krylov and not allow himself to just get put on his back for 15 minutes, Oezdemir's going to go win this fight. I've got Volkan Oezdemir to beat Nikita Krylov. Is he going to finish Krylov? I don't know, because Krylov has never been finished, I don't think, by TKO so far in the UFC. I think you got to go back to his first fight back in 2013 at UFC 164, Henderson Pettis 2, last time he was TKO'd. I don't think it's going to happen here. I think Oezdemir is going to be able to win a decision, keeps the fight standing, outstrikes his opponent, taking no time. Volkan Oezdemir to win this one by unanimous decision as the underdog. So Muhammad Mokaev is the biggest favorite on this card for very good reason. Yeah, I mean, the guy's a minus 645 favorite here. He was undefeated as an amateur. He's undefeated as a pro, and now he didn't get the finish in his last fight. It was a win over Charles Johnson, the former LFA champion, coming in there. And Charles Johnson fought a good fight considering the circumstance. I mean, he didn't really do much, but he didn't get finished, and that's a big deal. Mokaev was not able to get him out of there. I mean, Mokaev took him down 12 times, but again, was not able to get the finish against the former LFA champ in Charles Johnson. It was different than Mokaev's first fight. Both his fights, by the way, in the UFC have been in London. His first fight being against Cody Durden. He came in there, took him down immediately, got the guillotine choke, finished it, or actually knocked him down immediately and secured that guillotine choke and put him out, or tapped him out in the first round. He's going to be taking on Malcolm Gordon in this one, and I like Malcolm Gordon. I think he's a good fighter. He's 2-2 in the UFC, and he's, impressive for me because he got put away in the first round in back-to-back fights to kick off his stint in the UFC. He got subbed by Amir Albazi in the first round, then he got knocked out by Dariush in a second, and I was thinking, okay, they give him Francisco Figueiredo, who, given Figueiredo is not very great. I mean, the guy's, coming off a loss now to Amir Albazi in his own right, but he's not the greatest. I thought Figueiredo, though, was going to be able to beat Gordon. He didn't. Then they book him against Dennis Bondar, and Malcolm Gordon goes in there and, beats him. Again, it was more of an arm injury for Bondar early in the fight, but still, Gordon picks up the win. My thing about him taking on Mokaev, and I'll keep this short because I don't think this fight, there's really not much to talk about, because either Malcolm Gordon, the way he wins this fight is if he catches Mokaev early and really tests the chin and puts him out, because if not, Mokaev is going to break him down. He's going to hold him down. He is going to constantly pressure him and wrestle him and take him down and take him down and take him down and hold him down. And that's how Mokaev wins the fight. I will present you with the one way Malcolm Gordon wins against by the takedown. But this is the point I'm making about why I feel so confident in Mokaev winning this fight and why he's such a big favorite going into this fight. You look at Malcolm Gordon's losses in the UFC, and you look even the fight where he wins against Francisco Figueiredo. Figueiredo's able to take him down and hold him down for 4 minutes in that fight. He's able to win the first round against Malcolm Gordon by holding him down in that first. What is Muhammad Mokaev going to do to him? Amir Albazi is a good fighter. He's a top 15 fighter. But Albazi's able to catch him from bottom with the triangle. Okay, sure, different circumstance, but that's what I'm just saying. Mokaev is so well versed in the ground. It's going to be such a tough fight for Gordon. And even Mokaev's striking isn't horrible as well. It's getting there, but again, he's not going to really test himself in the feet against Malcolm Gordon. That's just not what he's trying to come in there and do. He's going to go in there, he's going to take him down immediately, and he's going to try to submit him. I think that's what he's going to do to Malcolm Gordon. I think Gordon's decent. I think he's getting better, but when you look at this fight and you look at the fights that Malcolm Gordon's fought recently compared to the fights Muhammad Mokaev has fought recently, this just doesn't match up all that well for Malcolm X Gordon. I'm going to be taking Muhammad Mokaev to stay undefeated when his 8th pro fight, his 3rd in the UFC. Muhammad Mokaev beats Malcolm X Gordon, and he's going to get the win by first round submission. Takedown, sub immediately. Mokaev gets his 3rd win in the UFC. Give it to him by first round sub. So I know the circumstances are a little bit different in this fight for Makhmud Muradov. I know he's not taking on a guy like Jared Mearshart like he did in his last fight over a year ago on the tough finale card, Barboza versus Chikadze, which we'll talk about it. He gets subbed by Jared Mearshart. It's a fight that, Muradov's a minus 600 favorite in. Mearshart comes in there, pulls off the upset, and submits him in the second round. It was partially Muradov getting tired, but it was really Mearshart just sticking with it, taking Muradov down, finding the rear naked choke and winning the fight that way. And Muradov was undefeated going into that fight. He had won 3 straight fights over the likes against Alessio Di Chirico, Trevor Smith, and Andrew Sanchez back to back. And it's just, Muradov looked so impressive because his striking looked good, his defensive wrestling looked solid, he was able to keep the fight standing when he needed to, and he was able just to go in there and outstrike guys. Now, he's taken on Kyle Borralho. And I've spoken at lengths already in this video about how good Kyle Borralho is. I've spoken about how good he was against Arman Petrosyan, against Gaiji Omargadzhiev, 2 guys who are fighting on this card as well. He beat both of them, and those fights weren't even close. Again, I said it earlier. Is Kyle Borralho the most entertaining fighter? No, he's not. That's not how he fights. He is not going to come in there. He's not going to, show you the oohs and ahs. He's not going to wow you with his fight style. But he's going to go in there and he's going to pick up the victory. Because he's one of these guys. And I talk about the Mackenzie Derns of the world, the Kron Gracies of the world. Those type of fighters, even Brian Ortega to a certain extent, their jiu-jitsu is so good, they're so feared on the ground, but they can't get the offensive takedowns in their own right. Kara Borralho, and I wouldn't say his pure jiu-jitsu to the point of a Brian Ortega or of a Mackenzie Dern, but his wrestling is so good for being such a high-level BJJ player, which makes it so hard on his opponents, because he's going to go in there, he's going to find that takedown, and if he's not going to get that submission, he's just going to lay on you for 5 minutes, and he's going to make sure you don't get back up, and it's going to be a hard 5 minutes, because his opponent's going to try to get back up on his feet, but Borralho's not wasting all that energy to keep him down there. Right? That's why Borralho is so good. You look at his win over Aaron Jeffrey, and I think very highly of Aaron Jeffrey. It's on the Contender Series. Aaron Jeffrey's a guy that the UFC I think should have signed, but this is a guy who in his last fight knocked out a former title challenger in Bellator, Austin Vanderford, in 1 minute and 25 seconds. It only took him 95 seconds to finish Austin Vanderford in his last fight. Kara Borralho went in there and dominated Aaron Jeffrey in the Contender Series, held him down for about 7 minutes. It's just pure constant pressure out of Kara Borralho. Avoided the pressure and avoided the big strikes that Aaron Jeffrey was throwing back his way. Got another shot in the Contender Series later that season, season 5. 3 weeks later, finished his opponent in the first round, showing that, okay, he's got power too and he can strike as well, but the way he wants to win fights are taking his opponents down, holding him down there, and just dominating. That's what he's going to do in all of his fights. And for Makhmud Muradov, I mean, I would be a lot more confident if the Jaromir Yarsar fight never happened, because I think Muradov's going to tire. If he can't get Borralho out there in that first round, I think it is danger for Makhmud Muradov. If he can't finish Borralho in that first round, it's danger, because Borralho is going to drown him. And I'll make the case, I think Borralho is going to drown him in that first round. I don't think Muradov's going to see all that much success in this fight, because I think Borralho's going to go in there. I think he's going to take him down early. I think he's going to hold him down there. I think it's going to be 15 minutes of hell for Makhmud Muradov in this fight, because that's how good Borralho is. Now on the feet, is Muradov better than Kara Borralho? Yes, but we talk about this all the time. Borralho's threat of the takedown and Borralho's threat of the ground game is going to make his striking so much better, because Makhmud Muradov is always going to be concerned about the grappling and when is Borralho going to try to tie up? When is Borralho going to try to shoot? When is Borralho going to get that ground game involved? And he'll always be thinking about it, and it will let Borralho pick his spots, catch him with something, and then go back to the ground game. So I really like Kara Borralho to win this fight. Again, I speak at length about how good this guy is. Is it the most entertaining fight style? No, it's not. This fight might be just 15 minutes of boring wrestling, holding him down, Borralho just winning the fight that way. But hell, victory's a victory, a win's a win. Borralho's getting his money. He's going to go in there. He's going to beat Makhmud Muradov. He's going to give Muradov his second loss in the UFC. Give me Kara Borralho to win this one by unanimous decision. I would not be surprised if he finds a submission, but I don't think Borralho's, he's not wasting extra energy. He's not going to go out there and exert himself to try to go find a submission. He's cool with picking up the decision, and I think that's what he's going to do. Give me Borralho by decision in this fight over Makhmud Muradov. So this one's got all the makings of a fight of the night. We have got Zubair Tukhugov taking on Lucas Alameda. What a fun fight, because I didn't think Almeida was going to be the guy he was in his first fight in the UFC. I mean, Almeida goes in there, finishes Trezano, looks really good in that fight, and here we are. He is back taking on Zubair Tukhugov, and Almeida showed in that fight. I mean, it was a fun back and forth fight in that one. I mean, Trezano drops him in the first, but then Almeida drops him in the second, then Almeida drops him in the third, and eventually wins the fight in the third round. Almeida's a fun guy to watch. He was coming to the UFC as his first ever fight in the promotion. He lost to Daniel Zellhuber in the Contender Series, but he comes back, he wins on Jungle Fight, he wins their lightweight championship over there in that promotion, and then he gets the call to the UFC, and he beats Mike Trezano in a fight that he was a pretty big underdog in. He goes in there and he finishes in the third round, looks very good, and Tukhugov's a guy, man, who's going to go in there, he's going to go to war as well. I mean, he will mix it up a little bit with the wrestling, but Zubair Tukhugov's a very fun striker. He's always going to be in your face. He gets into a lot of close fights, which sometimes he will try to go in there and just try to outpoint guys, which doesn't make for the best, doesn't give you the most confidence when you pick the guy. But Tukhugov's been in the UFC always since 2014. He made his debut in February of that year on the Machida Musasi card. He wins 3 fights in a row, drops back-to-back fights, though actually has a loss to Haneto Moicano, draw to Lerone Murphy, and then goes in after that, beats Kevin Aguilar, and then loses to Hakeem Dawodu on UFC 253, and then beats Ricardo Ramos. But you know how good Dawodu is. Dawodu's a pretty good guy who, in his last fight, though, just lost to Juicy J, Julian Erosa. I mean, hell, Erosa keeps on winning fights. But Tukhugov, he's always going to be striking with you. He's always going to be in your face. He's a very fun guy to watch. And we'll see what happens in this fight with him and Lucas Almeida. Because for Lucas Almeida, again, coming off the Contender Series, he won on Jungle Fight after that. But Almeida is a very powerful guy who's got, you saw, I mean, he knocked down Trezano twice in their fight. And for Tukhugov, not the most power, but he's going to go in there. He is going to strike with you, and he is going to be in your face, and eventually he'll put you away. Only 2 finishes so far in the UFC for Tukhugov, being the Chavez fight back in 2014 and the Aguilar fight back on the Felder-Hooker card, finishing him in the first round. I think this is a fun fight. I think Tukhugov's quicker, though, than Almeida, and I think if Almeida's not able to put away Tukhugov and knock him out, I think Tukhugov will slowly take over, and he'll end up winning the fight. Don't get me wrong. I mean, again, I said earlier, all-action type of fight. This is going to be a back-and-forth war on the feet, which will make for a very fun, stylistic matchup. But I think when you're picking this fight, if Almeida is not able to find the finish early, I think Tukhugov will start to wear him down and start to take over. That's how I see this fight. We'll see what happens, but I think Tukhugov wins. I definitely, though, I think Almeida's got a serious chance of finishing him early, but Tukhugov is a guy, though, who has not been finished so far in the UFC. I don't even think he's been knocked down so far in the UFC. He's got a really good chin. We look at the ground games. I think Almeida and Tukhugov match up pretty well on the ground. I think offensive wrestling-wise, I think Tukhugov's a little bit better, but Almeida jiu-jitsu-wise is better. But Tukhugov's got a really good takedown defense. Rate so far in the UFC has not been taken down in the UFC. I don't think Almeida's going to be the first, considering, again, this is a fight where I think the two guys are going to stand there. I think they're going to trade. I'm going to take Tukhugov by unanimous decision. I could see it either way, but on one of the closer fights in the card, I'm going to take Zubair Tukhugov to win this one by unanimous decision. So a huge fight at 170. It is Belal, remember the name Muhammad, taking on Sean Brady. Sean Brady has not lost in the UFC. He is 5-0, coming off the biggest win of his career. It's a unanimous decision victory in a fight that, I didn't know if he was going to win or not. I mean, it was a fight against Michael Chiesa. I took Chiesa to win it. Sean Brady goes in there, though, out-wrestles Chiesa and dominates him on the ground and wins the fight that way by unanimous decision. You give the first round to Brady. You give the second, I believe, to Chiesa, and you give the third to Sean Brady as well. Yeah, now he's taking on Belal Muhammad. It is a huge step up, considering Belal Muhammad is coming off of 3 straight wins over Damian Maia, Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, and the best win of his career by far, Vicente Luque. Winning that rematch against Vicente Luque for Belal Muhammad was incredible for his career. I did not think he was going to do in there, and I hate on Belal Muhammad a lot. I call him boring a lot, but he went in there, he struck a little bit with Vicente Luque, he took him down when he needed to. I had it 3-2 for Muhammad. Of course, he wins the fight. He shocked a lot of people, myself included. Belal Muhammad wins the fight, and this guy is tough. He is a tough guy who is a dominant wrestler who does not get taken down in his own right, and that's where this fight ends up. I mean, we can talk about these guys' previous fights. I can talk about how Sean Brady went there and submitted Jake Matthews, how he submitted Christian Aguilera, and it's one of his first fights in the UFC, how he comes into the promotion, he beats Court McGee, or how he wins the CFFC championship back in 2019. You can talk about all those points, but when it comes down to it, is who is the better wrestler in this fight? Because this is not one of those fights that, personally, this is not a Kamaru Usman, Colby Covington where the wrestling cancels out and you're going to see a striking fight. I don't think this fight acts like this. I think this fight is someone's going to be the better wrestler. Who is it going to be? That's how I see this fight. I think whoever is the better wrestler will dominate on the ground. That's how I see this fight taking place. I don't think these guys are going to settle on a striking fight. That's not how these guys fight. They want to get the fights in the ground, because that's how we saw Sean Brady, Michael Chiesa. We were thinking, okay, if there's ever a fight where we're going to see Sean Brady striking, it's going to be this one. It's going to be if he can't take down Michael Chiesa. But the thing is, his offensive grappling is good. His defensive grappling isn't always the greatest. We've seen him submitted a couple times by, Anthony Pettis and Kevin Lee in the past. But we were thinking, okay, maybe Brady, we're going to see more of the striking game. No, we really saw a lot of the wrestling out of Brady. We saw a lot of the jiu-jitsu out of him. And I think that's what, when this fight happens with him and Belal Muhammad, I think, again, we are going to see who the better wrestler is. I think both these guys are going to stay pretty adamant on the fact of that's what they want to do. They want to go in there. They want to wrestle. They want to show that they are the better fighter at that particular game plan. And we'll see what happens, man. Because this is just personal opinion. Who do you think the better wrestler is? Sean Brady, Belal Muhammad? I think it's Sean Brady. Okay, and this isn't me hating on Belal Muhammad, because I'll be honest with you, I have not been the biggest Belal Muhammad fan. I have gone into the joke that the man is boring, because, let's be honest, he kind of is. I think Sean Brady's, in a lot of fans' eyes, he's the more, fun version to watch of Belal Muhammad, because he'll go out there and he'll look for finishes, and he'll go out there and, again, try to end fights. But, I think Sean Brady's better than Belal Muhammad on the ground. I think he is. I think he's a better wrestler. And I think if Sean Brady's able to take down Belal Muhammad, he's going to be able to hold him down there. And that's my honest opinion on this fight. And I don't think Belal Muhammad's going to be able to offer anything off his back, because we have not seen Belal Muhammad on his back ever in the UFC. Damian Maia, I think, took him down once. Yeah, Damian Maia did take him down once, and it was in the first round. I mean, Damian Maia had Belal down for a little bit. But other than that, I don't think Belal's really been taken down, and that's going to be something different. I definitely think it's going to be something different in this fight where we see what is the reaction out of Belal Muhammad once he gets taken down by Sean Brady, because I think it's going to happen. And I think Sean Brady's offensive wrestling is better than Belal Muhammad's. I think it's going to take Muhammad a lot more attempts to take down Sean Brady, and it's not specifically because I think, and it's weird because again, there's so many different, so many contradicting things in this fight. It's because I think Belal Muhammad's takedown defense is better than Sean Brady, but I think Sean Brady's offensive wrestling is better than Belal Muhammad's. So again, it's such a weird fight, but what's not going to happen, and I truly don't think it's going to happen, I don't think a striking fight's going to happen between these two. I think we are more likely to find ourselves in a boring clinch fight than we are to these two saying, all right, wrestling cancels each other out, we're going to strike. I don't think that's going to happen. I think someone's going to be the better wrestler. I think it's Sean Brady. I think Brady gets Belal Muhammad down. I think he wins the biggest fight of his career after beating Michael Chiesa. Sean Brady beats Belal Muhammad by unanimous decision. Okay, so this feels like a fight Manon Fiorot should win, right? It feels like it. It feels like this is the fight that Manon Fiorot is supposed to win. She is going to go and fight for the championship next once she beats Katlyn Chookagian. But how many times have we been in this spot where you got a fighter that the UFC is trying to push to a championship fight or get to the next level in the weight class, and Katlyn Chookagian beats him? Because she is the ultimate gatekeeper. And this is the fight where you cannot deny Katlyn Chookagian a championship fight or championship rematch, no matter how bad the first fight was between her and Valentina Shevchenko. You cannot deny her another championship opportunity if she beats Manon Fiorot here. You can't. Because Manon Fiorot has gone in and she has been undefeated so far in the UFC. She's 4-0. She beat Victoria Leonardo. She beats Tabatha Ricci. She beats Mayra Bueno Silva. And she beats a former title challenger in Jennifer Maia, a fighter who won a round against Valentina Shevchenko. Now, is Valentina the most dominant force now considering the Taila Santos fight? I don't know. I think she still really goes in there and dusts up a lot of the weight class. But I think this is the fight, though, where you can't deny Chookagian a title shot no matter what happens here. And I know Chookagian probably lost her last fight. I think Amanda Ribas probably beat her. Let's be honest with ourselves. I think Ribas wins that fight. I give Ribas 2-3. You give Chookagian the first. It can go either way. I understand why Chookagian won, but I thought Amanda Ribas should have won that one. And again, Chookagian's been in so many close fights that could have gone either way. The Calvillo fight, the Araujo fight. Jennifer Maia, I thought she won. I feel like a lot of people thought Chookagian won that one. But there's a lot of fights where Katlyn Chookagian's just got so many boring fights. They're boring stand-up affairs that she barely wins. But the Ribas fight is a little bit different because, again, Ribas was the one beating her on the ground, too. And just, I don't know. Chookagian was able to outstrike Ribas when it mattered, and she won the fight that way, right? Ever so slightly. In this fight between her and Manon Fiorot, though, I don't think she's able to go out there and just hiss and push kick Manon Fiorot out the way and just hope it's enough. Because Chookagian will strike. She will throw volume. But how much damage is Katlyn Chookagian truly doing? I don't know. She has not finished anyone in the UFC, I don't think, ever. I'm pretty sure she hasn't. I'm pretty sure all of her finishes come outside of the UFC. One comes in World Series of Fighting. The other one comes in CFFC for the Bantamweight Championship. That's how she got her way in the UFC to fight Lauren Murphy in 2016. She has not finished anyone in the UFC. That's just not how Katlyn Chookagian fights. Even her most impressive and dominant performance in the UFC was the Antonina Shevchenko win, where she got Antonina in a crucifix and she was pounding her on the ground. Still, she couldn't get the finish against Antonina. Chookagian is likely not getting a finish in this fight. If she's going to beat Manon Fiorot, she's going to keep her distance. She's going to avoid any damage out of Fiorot, which is something I'm going to talk about in a second. It's a very tough thing to do, and she's going to win the fight by outvoluming Manon Fiorot. That's a tough thing to do, though. It's easier said than done. Because the difference between Katlyn Chookagian and Manon Fiorot, I think they are very similar fighters in their striking styles. But the difference, and this is the main difference, Manon Fiorot does damage with her strikes. Can you say Katlyn Chookagian does the same? Chookagian throws strikes to throw them and to get volume in her opponent's faces and to outpoint fighters. Manon Fiorot is going in there to finish her opponents. I know she didn't finish Jennifer Maia, but she still put it on Maia for 15 minutes. She won every single round. Fiorot is going to hurt Katlyn Chookagian. Will Katlyn Chookagian hurt Manon Fiorot? I don't know. And again, we could be looking at this on Monday morning or on Sunday morning. It's like, damn, or even hell, Saturday night, because it's a Saturday afternoon card. You're thinking, man, Chookagian just did enough again. But I don't think it's going to work against a fighter of Manon Fiorot's caliber. She's that good on the feet. Her striking is that good. On the ground, it's not like Chookagian can rely on her ground game because Mustafaev's got a pretty good ground game as well. Her wrestling is very solid for where she's at in her career. I think Fiorot is going to beat Chookagian. She is going to outstrike Chookagian. I'm not going to say she's going to get a finish, but I think she wins every single round, similar to what she did against Jennifer Maia. Give me Fiorot to beat Chookagian by unanimous decision. Okay, so I like Beneil Dariush. I think he's a good fighter. I think he should be in the top 10, but is his run a little bit overrated right now? I think it is. Yes, he's on a big winning streak, and he has not lost since 2018, that fight where he got really stunned by Alexander Hernandez really early on, UFC 222 in Vegas. But is his run a little bit overrated right now? I think it is. I just think it is. Tony Ferguson has not been that same guy in a while, and when Beneil Dariush beat Tony Ferguson, he was the first guy to do it after, Charles Oliveira did it, right? It was Gaethje, then Oliveira, then Dariush, then Chandler, then Nate Diaz. Okay. He beat him. But Tony really has not been the same guy since the Gaethje fight. He hasn't. And let's be honest, Dariush's performance against Tony Ferguson, if we're being real with ourselves, is probably the least impressive out of everyone who's beat Tony Ferguson. Because yes, he beats him and he holds him down, but Dariush does no damage to Tony Ferguson. Ferguson was doing jumping jacks after the fight. I don't know if he actually did, but seriously, Ferguson was not damaged at the end of that fight. Tony Ferguson was damaged at the end of the Charles Oliveira fight. He was damaged at the end of the Nate Diaz fight, the Gaethje fight, the Chandler fight. He wasn't really damaged at the end of the Beneil Dariush fight, but that's not Dariush's fault. He did what he needed to do to win the fight. Don't get me wrong. He won the fight that way. Good. I'm happy for Dariush. I am. But when you look at the rest of his fights, he barely gets by Carlos Diego Ferreira. I thought he won the fight, sure, but he barely gets by him. He takes him down, holds him down a little bit, strikes with him, sure. He beats Scott Hot Sauce Holtzman. He misses weight in that fight, but still he's spinning back fist, knocks him out. He beats Takar Close in a fight that he was about to lose. It was a close fight, no pun intended, actually pun intended, but still, Dariush knocks him out in the second. Cool. Frank Camacho, he subs him, subs Drew Dober. Those are good wins. But again, though, Dariush is number 3, and he's talking about being the backup of the title fight when your best win is Tony Ferguson, who's on a 5-fight losing streak. Just saying. And he's taken on the former KSW champion in Mateusz Gamrot. And I said when Gamrot came in the UFC how good this guy was. I said, he's going to go in there, he's going to beat Guram Kutateladze. He didn't, and I want to see Kutateladze fight again soon because, he lost to Damir Magulov. That was a close fight. It was competitive. I want to see the guy back in the octagon. It's cool. Everyone thought Gamrot beat Kutateladze. Dana White thought he won. Everyone thought Kutateladze thought Gamrot won. Whatever. The judges thought otherwise. Gamrot's incredible, though. He has that fight against Arman Tsarukyan. It was a very impressive showcase fight for the lightweight division in the main event in the Apex. It was a fun fight, one of the best Apex main events we've seen in a minute. Gamrot goes in there, he beats him. He out-wrestles Tsarukyan. He outstrikes Tsarukyan. It's a good fight. It's really competitive. I'll be honest with you, I thought Tsarukyan maybe should have won, but I get why Gamrot picked up the victory. It was a very close fight. I can make the case for either guy. When I initially watched it, I thought it was very close. It doesn't matter who wins the fight. Those are both really top guys in the weight class, and Mateusz Gamrot, it makes up, even if you thought he lost, it makes up for the loss that he had against Guram Kutateladze, a fight that he definitely won. I mean, Gamrot's other wins, they're big. It's the knockout win over Holtzman. It's the early submission over Jeremy Stevens. It's the injury/TKO win over Diego Ferreira, and then of course it's the win over Tsarukyan. Gamrot's very impressive. His ground game's very good, and his defensive wrestling's very good too. So I don't think Dariush is going to be able to take him down. I think this is going to be a stand-up fight because I don't think Dariush is able to drag him down to the mat. So then you get a striking fight between Mateusz Gamrot and Beneil Dariush. And I think if anything, Gamrot's the one taking down Dariush. I just think Gamrot's quicker. He's younger. I think he's better. I'm taking Mateusz Gamrot to beat Beneil Dariush here. I think he's a better fighter. I think power-wise, maybe you give it to Dariush just a little bit. But Gamrot, all around, his striking game is better than Beneil Dariush's. He's quicker, he's more technical, he's got a better ground game. I think than Beneil Dariush. I think just overall wrestling-wise, I think he's better than Beneil. I think Beneil's top pressure is probably better than Mateusz Gamrot's, but I speak highly of Mateusz Gamrot. That win over Arman Tsarukyan was incredible. He was one of the biggest ads the UFC has ever made, really, from free agency when they got him from KSW. I mean, the guy was he was undefeated coming off of KSW. And then he comes in, he loses that fight to Guram, which I thought was ridiculous. He's back on that track to get to the championship now, and he's going to come in here, he's going to beat Beneil Dariush. Again, I talked about Dariush's winning streak to this point. It's good, but is it all that impressive? Not really. I mean, it's impressive, sure, but it's not to what people are making it out to be. Mateusz Gamrot's going to end it. He's going to go in there. He's going to outstrike Beneil Dariush. He's going to outgrapple Beneil Dariush. And Mateusz Gamrot steps 1 foot closer to the title shot. Gamrot beats Dariush, and he wins it by unanimous decision. Oh, here we go. Petrosyan, Sean O'Malley. My goodness. I mean, huge step up for Chookagian. And I feel like the UFC kind of takes that Pedro Munoz fight like a win for Sean O'Malley because Munoz is the guy who couldn't continue with the eye poke. But let's be honest with ourselves, that wasn't the greatest fight. I mean, O'Malley, he was fighting, but like, was he winning? I don't know. That fight was boring. Don't go watch it again. It was boring. I think Munoz wins the first round, and Munoz is kind of a slow starter. Yeah, I mean, O'Malley's winning the second, I think, until the eye poke happens. But it's not the most impressive fight for Sean O'Malley. But he finally gets the big step up in competition he's been waiting for. And he gets it in the form of Petrosyan. My goodness, this is like the biggest step up in competition you can possibly get. Is Sean O'Malley going up and fighting the former world champion Petrosyan, a guy who a lot of people thought was just unstoppable at this weight class. A guy that a lot of people thought was never going to be beat at 135. A guy who's going to be champion for 5+ years. He's lost the championship. He's lost twice to Aljamain Sterling, the current champion, who we're going to talk about in a second. First fight, of course, the illegal knee. The second fight, I'm going to mention it again when we talk about Aljo Dillashaw, but I just want to say it. I called that fight. Now, I said Jan was going to win, but I said in that fight, this is going to be a very close fight. It's a closer fight than a lot of people are saying it's going to be. I think the turning point in this fight is the third round. Whoever wins the third round is going to win the fight, because I said Aljo's going to win 1 and 2. Jan's going to win 4 and 5. Whoever wins the third round is going to win the fight. Aljo got the takedown. He wins that third round. He wins the fight. That's what happens. I mean, Aljamain Sterling beats Petrosyan fair and square. He takes him down. He strikes him in the first round because, Jan's a slow starter. That's the point I'm going to get back to in a second. Jan's a slow starter. Aljo did enough in the first round. He out-wrestles him in 2 and 3. He wins the fight that way. Petrosyan's only got 3 rounds against Sean O'Malley in this fight, though. And we talk about Jan being a slow starter. If he's a slow starter in this fight and he drops the first 2 rounds, trouble. If O'Malley does go in there, Sean, it depends on the fight. He was slow to start the Munoz fight. He was kind of slow to start the Moutinho fight, even though he kind of went for Moutinho, but took him a while to get the knockout against Chris Moutinho. He finished Halian Paiva early. He finished, he started a little bit slow against Almeida, but eventually finished him in the third round, looked good in the second round. He was quick against Eddie Wineland, but my point being, if Sean O'Malley can get out to a quick start against Petrosyan, if he can get that first round, and I don't know if he's going to finish Jan because Jan's chin's so good, but honestly, if O'Malley's going to do it, maybe that's how he is, but I'll give you the point where I think Sean O'Malley can win this by decision. If he can win the first 2 rounds, man, there you go. If he can get out to a quick start, win the first round against Petrosyan, because Jan's a historic slow starter. I think there's a very good chance Sean O'Malley, no matter what, wins this first round. The turning point, like I said in Jan Sterling, the turning point's the second round. Because I feel very confident in Sean O'Malley. I feel very confident in Petrosyan winning the third round. And I feel I don't say pretty confident, but I feel somewhat confident in O'Malley winning the first. Because I don't think O'Malley's going to get Jan out of there, but I think he's going to go for it in that first round. I think he's going to try to put him away in that first. Whatever happens in the second round, I think will decide who wins this fight. If Sean O'Malley can win his second round in that fight, if he can bank the first and come in there and just do enough in the second round, I don't think Jan's going to have what it takes to put him out in the third. I just don't think that. I don't think Jan's going to be able to put away Sean O'Malley in this fight. I don't think he's going to be able to. I don't think O'Malley's going to be able to put away Jan because Jan's chin's so good. But I think this one goes to decision, and it's just a matter of the second round. I think Sean O'Malley's got a very serious chance of winning this fight, and a much more serious chance than a lot of people are giving him. I think he does. I really think he does, just because of how Jan starts slow, and in this environment in a 3-round fight, Jan can't get used to the fight and accustomed to the environment, and he doesn't have 25 minutes. He's got 15. If this is a 5-round fight, all day Petrosyan wins this one. No matter what, Jan wins. This, except for maybe a first-round knockout by Sean O'Malley, which I don't think is going to happen. In this atmosphere and in this fight style, there's a definite chance Chookagian can pull off the upset. However, I'm still taking Petrosyan. I think O'Malley's going to win the first round. I think it's going to be a close first round. But I think O'Malley actually will win that first. I know he dropped the first to Munoz, but truly, I think he's going to win this first round against Petrosyan. I think he's going to win a round against him. But then the second, I think Jan's going to flip a switch and he's going to beat him in the second. I think his clock, his timer in his head is going to be accustomed to this fight style, and it's going to be accustomed to the 3-round environment, and he's going to win the second, he's going to win the third. I think that's what's going to happen here. I think it's going to happen. But I do think O'Malley's going to have his moments. I think O'Malley will touch up Petrosyan a little bit. But I think Jan, again, in that second round is going to flip a switch, and I think he will, from there on out, outstrike Sean O'Malley, and I think Petr Yan that way is going to win the fight. So I'm going to be taking Jan to win this one. I think he's going to beat Chookagian. I think Sean is going to be a lot more impressive than what a lot of people are anticipating in this fight, but I still, though, think Petr Yan, no mercy Jan, is going to beat Sean O'Malley. He's going to get it done by unanimous decision. Title fight number 1 of 2. For the Bantamweight Championship of the World, we have got the Thunk Master, Aljamain Sterling, taking on TJ Dillashaw. Let's do it, man. Okay, I'll get this out of the way. I'm a huge Aljamain Sterling fan. I am a huge Aljo fan. I went crazy when he beat Jan at UFC 273 in Jacksonville, so take a little bit of bias out of this. I will try to give you a non-biased opinion here, an actual non-biased prediction, but here we go. Aljo, TJ, for the World Championship. Now, does Dillashaw deserve this shot? I don't know. I mean, you know, he beats Corey Sandhagen in a fight that a lot of people thought he lost. I thought he won, but it's a close fight. He hasn't fought in over a year. He's coming off for an over a year layoff because of the torn ACL, but he's back, and he's taking on the Funk Master, Aljamain Sterling. Now, Aljo's striking does not get the credit it deserves. It does not. You look at the fight against Jan, the second fight is Aljamain Sterling's best fight of his career. He wins the first round. He outstrikes Petr Yan in the first. The second round, he takes him down, takes his back for 4 minutes. Same thing we said about the third. The fourth and fifth is all Jan, but still Aljo stays in the fight. He kind of gets to that point in that fifth round where he just keeps on shooting takedowns to avoid taking any more damage from Jan, but he wins the fight because he banks those first 3 rounds. There's a definite chance he submits TJ Dillashaw, though, this time. If he gets Dillashaw's back, like he did against Jan in the second and the third, he might submit Dillashaw, and he might put this fight away early. Because that's how good of a jiu-jitsu game Aljamain Sterling's got. He is the human backpack, and that just kind of shows how good Petr Yan is defensively. And that was kind of the thing with Jan in that fight. He would always give up his back to try to get back up. As soon as Aljo would grab his legs, Jan would just kind of turn his back to try to get back up, and then Aljo would climb the back, get the body triangle, and hold him down. And that was something that Jan does have to work on if he's going to ever fight Aljo again, which I don't think is going to be anytime soon, because Aljo's already technically now beat him twice in both those. I mean, even, I don't care what you can say about the first fight. Jan lost that first fight because of Petr Yan, not because of Aljamain Sterling. He needed him in the head when he was down. You can't do that, right? But I think, again, if Aljo can get on Dillashaw's back, he's going to win. On the feet, obviously, TJ Dillashaw is a better fighter, better striker than Aljamain Sterling. But I think Sterling's going to make it competitive on the feet. I am concerned if Dillashaw unloads and just hits him with a huge power shot. Because I do get a little bit concerned with Aljo's chin. I've always been concerned about Aljo's chin since he got knocked out by Marlon Moraes. What was it, in Fresno in 2017? I always get concerned about Aljo's chin since then. Even though it has held up pretty well against the likes of Pedro Munoz, Jimmy Rivera. Sandhagen didn't really take any shots against him, but Jan drops him in the first fight, but he didn't drop him in the second fight. Aljo ate those punches and went with it. And Aljo's combos look so good in the Jan fight. He's got that one combo where it's the 1-2 kick to the body that Jan, kind of grabs as the groin shot. It's not, it's a legal shot, but that one hurt Jan. And Aljo can then right away works back the takedown. He takes him down. Jan kind of gets back up, gives his back. Aljo takes the back, gets the body triangle, holds him down for the rest of the round. Aljo's striking is underrated. It's underrated because the pressure he's going to bring to you. Because he's going to pressure TJ Dillashaw in this fight. He's going to be in TJ Dillashaw's face. Whether it be the wrestling, whether it be the striking, it's just a matter of TJ Dillashaw can counter and Dillashaw can unload and put the lights out. Because I don't think TJ Dillashaw wins a 5-round fight against Aljamain Sterling. I don't think he's going to. But I think it's even. But if he is, though, I think it's going to be very important if he can win that first round. We'll see how Aljo fights this fight against Dillashaw, because let's be honest with ourselves, we've only seen Aljamain Sterling in the last 2 years against Petr Yan. We haven't seen him against anybody else. It will be different. We'll see if he fights a 5-round fight differently, because his only 5-round fights have been against Jan. We'll see if he treats him any differently against TJ Dillashaw. But if Dillashaw can drop Aljo in that first round, big difference. And I don't think he's going to put away Aljamain Sterling where he's going to knock him out. But I think, if he can change the course of this fight and dictate where, okay, if Dillashaw is going to win the 4th and 5th rounds like Jan did, can he steal that first away from Aljamain Sterling? I don't know. But again, I come back to, if Aljo takes him down once, I think he can have a submission. That's how good of a ground game Aljamain Sterling has, and I think that's how much better Petr Yan's defensive jiu-jitsu is compared to TJ Dillashaw's. Because Dillashaw, let's be honest, doesn't get taken down that much. The only guy that I can think of that has ever taken him down is Dominic Cruz. Dillashaw's got tremendous takedown defense, but I don't know if that really matters against a guy like Aljamain Sterling, and this is, I believe, a quote that Aljo said once. You can stuff one takedown against him. You can stuff 1, you can stuff 2, you can stuff 3, you can stuff 4. How are you going to respond to the constant pressure that Aljo is going to bring in the 5th, then the 6th, then the 7th? Because he is going to attempt 20 plus takedowns in this fight. And at the same time, he is going to consistently keep striking you early. Aljo is going to be in your face. He's going to offer a bunch of different strikes, and then he's going to go to the takedown. Also, TJ Dillashaw has only fought once in the last 3.5 years. Just saying. Just saying. And he's getting a title shot again. And oh, by the way, 2 fights ago, he lost Henry Cejudo. He got knocked down in the first round. He got popped for PEDs. Okay. Is he deserving of this title? Is he deserving of this title shot? I don't know. But I think Aljamain Sterling is going to beat him. Aljamain Sterling is going to beat TJ Dillashaw. Aljo's got him on the feet, I think. As long as Dillashaw doesn't rock him and hit him with a big counter punch, I think Aljo's constant pressure on the feet, Colby Covington-esque, will be just enough. Because then he can go to the ground, he can switch up the grappling. I think Dillashaw is treating Sterling's wrestling like it's not that big of a deal. But it's different when you actually get in there with the guy, and Aljo's mixing it up. He's clinching you, he's kicking you, he's going to the takedowns, he's got you on the ground, and he's holding you on the ground. Aljamain Sterling's going to beat TJ Dillashaw, and he's going to do it by decision. Aljo's going to win the first 4 rounds, Dillashaw's going to win the 5th. I think that's what's going to happen. I think Aljo's going to take down TJ Dillashaw a lot. I think in the first round it's going to be a stand-up fight, second round takedown, third takedown, fourth takedown Aljo, 5th Dillashaw is going to just have enough to win that 5th round. I think Aljo's going to be a little bit tired in that 5th round, but I think still Sterling's going to win 49-46. I think very highly of the Funk Master. Love the guy. He's one of my favorite fighters, and truly unbiased prediction. Aljamain Sterling's going to go in there and beat TJ Dillashaw. The only question to me is if Dillashaw can rock him and put him out early and knock him out cold, or if Aljo, once he takes him down, is able to get that submission. Anyways, I think everything that Aljo presents outweighs what Dillashaw gives. Gonna take Aljamain Sterling to retain the championship, and still the Funk Master, by unanimous decision, retains his title in his 2nd title defense. All right, main event time. Charles do Bronx Oliveira versus Islam Makhachev for the vacant lightweight championship. Here we go. Islam finally gets his shot, and it's against Charles do Bronx Oliveira. My goodness, what a fight. I mean, this is such a tremendous fight, because Charles Oliveira, the champion, has a name, and his name is Charles Oliveira, because this guy's good. You look at the fight he has against Justin Gaethje. It is the best fight of his career. It truly is. And Oliveira's been rocked so many times in his last 3 title fights. Chandler's got him dead to rights. Poirier's got him dead to rights. Gaethje's got him dead to rights. Oliveira comes back in all 3 of them. This fight's different, though. It is different than what Oliveira's last 3 fights were, because he took on Michael Chandler, who's a really good wrestler who didn't want to engage in the grappling and decided, I'm going to go out there, I'm going to try to put away Charles Oliveira, I'm going to try to knock him out. And he got very close. He was a punch away. And I'll make the case Chandler was the closest than any of the other 3. Chandler was the closest to winning the fight. Dustin Poirier got close, couldn't finish the job. Justin Gaethje got close, couldn't finish it. Oliveira was, put the pressure on Gaethje. Gaethje's defensive striking has never been the greatest. He's never been able to really cover up all that well. He tried to turn into the old Justin Gaethje and get into a firefight with him, and Oliveira weathered the storm and beat him and submitted him in the first round. This one's different, though. This one is a lot different between Oliveira and Makhachev. It's because Oliveira has got a huge striking advantage. It's for the first time in his last 4 fights where I'll say Charles Oliveira is a better striker. And looking back at those fights, I'll say Charles Oliveira is a better striker than Justin Gaethje, Dustin Poirier, Michael Chandler, just because the new and improved Charles Oliveira is better than those guys, striking-wise, I think. But truly now, I think he is such a better striker than Islam Makhachev. I don't think anybody's willing to debate that fact. He is such a better striker than Makhachev, and now we'll see what happens in this one. Because Makhachev, you know what he's going to do. He's going to try to go in there. He's going to try to take him down. But what will Islam Makhachev do to combat Charles Oliveira's defensive jiu-jitsu and jiu-jitsu off his back? Because Charles Oliveira is the greatest jiu-jitsu practitioner in the UFC's history. He is. He's that good. What will Makhachev do? What will happen from there? Because you've got a guy in Makhachev who's been so dominant, who honestly, though, has not fought anyone all that impressive just yet, but he's been dominant against all those guys while he's been on top. Can he be that dominant guy against Charles Oliveira? Because if he can, Islam Makhachev will be the next dominant champion in this weight class. He will be that next Khabib. If he's able to go in there and he takes down Charles Oliveira in the first round and he submits him with the armbar, rear naked choke, arm triangle, Kimura, whatever, if he does that in the first round, boom. Islam Makhachev is that next big dominant champion. This is how big this fight is, I feel. If Charles Oliveira wins, that guy's the greatest lightweight of all time. If Charles Oliveira goes in there, and this is what makes him truly the greatest lightweight of all time, is if he goes in there, Makhachev takes him down, Oliveira submits him off his back, Oliveira's the greatest of all time, no questions asked. But I don't even know if that fight gets there. I think Oliveira is going to pressure Makhachev early. I think Oliveira is going to fight off the takedowns. I don't know if Makhachev gets Charles Oliveira down, but we'll see. Because not many guys want to wrestle Charles Oliveira. It's a thing. It's like how fighters don't want to wrestle Mackenzie Dern. They don't want to wrestle Brian Ortega. They don't want to wrestle... Hell, they don't want to wrestle guys like that. I was going to say Jordan Levitt. I don't know why, but guys will wrestle Jordan Levitt. Anyway, I don't know why Jordan Levitt popped in my head right there. But it's a huge difference. Huge difference in this one. It really is. Because Makhachev is going to wrestle Charles Oliveira. What will Oliveira do? Because Oliveira's defensive wrestling doesn't get tested all that often. Because sometimes when guys take down Charles Oliveira, he's like, all right, sure. I'll invite you into my guard. Because Oliveira will pull guard. He did that against Justin Gaethje, if I do believe, right? He will pull guard. Or I think it was either Gaethje or Poirier. He will pull guard, and he will do that. Because he wants to be on his back. Makhachev wants to be on top. Will Makhachev be able to pass guard, work to half, work to side, work to full mount? That's where this fight is so intriguing. I'm so intrigued by this fight because stand-up wise, Oliveira is so much better. Makhachev is not going to threaten Charles Oliveira on the feet. He's not going to. But on the ground, that's where this fight gets so interesting. Taking Charles Oliveira. The champion has a name, and his name is Charles "Do Bronx" Oliveira. Charles Oliveira is going to beat Islam Makhachev in this fight. He's going to. Now, will the scenario where Charles Oliveira becomes the GOAT happens? Where Makhachev takes him down, Oliveira catches him in an arm triangle, or not an arm triangle, catches him in a triangle and finishes the fight that way? I don't know. I think the more likely scenario for Charles Oliveira winning this fight is first round knockout. I don't think this fight gets past the first round. I don't think it does. And the most likely way I think Oliveira wins this fight, he keeps Makhachev on the feet. Makhachev's a little bit, he isn't really willing to engage in the wrestling game early, trying to wait things out a little bit, try to feeling out process or whatnot, and Oliveira blitzes him, and he knocks him down and knocks him out. Because precision beats power. Charles Oliveira has got precision, and that's how he was able to beat Chandler, that's how he's able to beat Gaethje, that's how he's able to beat Poirier, even though he submitted Poirier, but he's able to pressure Poirier to the point where he was able to climb the back, use the fence, and submit him. Real quick before we finish the video, again, has Islam Makhachev fought the level of fighter Charles Oliveira is? On the feet, no. On the ground, definitely not. The winning streak we talked about with Dariush is a little bit overrated. Yes, it is. Makhachev's winning streak's a little bit overrated too. Chris Wade, PFL fighter, okay. Nick Lentz, Glebson Tebow, Kajan Johnson. Arman Tsarukyan is the best name on this entire list, but that was a Tsarukyan who made his UFC debut back on the Overeem Olynyk card in April 2019. Davey Ramos, Drew Dober, Thiago Moises, Dan Hooker. I love Bobby Green, but come on. Come on now. Look at the guys Oliveira's beat. Kevin Lee, Tony Ferguson, Michael Chandler, Poirier, Gaethje. Big difference. We'll see. It is truly one of the most intriguing fights in UFC history for the lightweight championship of the world, but I'm taking Do Bronx Oliveira. I think Charles Oliveira goes in there. I think he knocks out Islam Makhachev in the first round. And because technically the championship's vacant, Oliveira retains the title. We'll see what's next. I think if Dustin Poirier beats Michael Chandler, I think it'll be Mateusz Gamrot. It might be Alexander Volkanovski. Who knows? But I think Volkanovski's going to defend that championship at 145 one more time in Australia, probably against Yair Rodriguez in February. So I think it either opens up for the winner of Dariush Gamrot, or if Michael Chandler knocks out Dustin Poirier, I think it'll be the rematch between Chandler and Oliveira, which, hell, who doesn't want to see that fight? That first fight was one of my favorite fights of last year. So we'll see, or 2 years ago. So, folks, thank you for watching our UFC 280 predictions. We've got Charles Oliveira regaining the gold, being the second one to beat Islam Makhachev in the UFC and in his pro career. So, folks, thank you for watching. Make sure that subscribe button down below for more. Make sure to like if you did enjoy the video. Thanks for watching, and Mamba forever.